Welcome to Freed on Business. He grew up in South Florida, has been in business here since the early 90s, and has closed over $3 billion in deals. He's seen it all. He always has an opinion, and he's always ready to share it. Informed, entertaining, and connected, he has his finger on the pulse of South Florida's business community. He's Jim Freed, and this is Freed on Business.
Hey everybody, welcome to a really special edition of Freed on Business. I've been working for a long time to be able to have this podcast with our guest today. We're on episode, I guess, like 735 or something. We've been on doing this for 14 years. Warren Henry's been our sponsors for the last 12. As always, I want to thank Larry, Eric, and the whole team over at Warren Henry for sponsoring us. They're tremendous, and we really appreciate their support and being part of the Warren Henry family. If you're looking for a car, you want to make sure you get every advantage that you can. That's why you have to check out Warren Henry. Today, our guest, we have one guest. It's my new business partner. It's Pat LaVecchia. Pat.
Hey, Jim.
There he is. There's Pat. He's the CEO of Oasis Pro. Pat, welcome to the show.
It's a great pleasure to be here, Jim, and I couldn't be more excited about what we're doing together, and it's an honor. So I appreciate the invite.
Team is only as strong as the players, and it's really great to be playing with you, Jillian, Tucker, and the whole team over there. We really have had the most wonderful experience. Our first clients are signing up, and more people are getting involved, and we want to thank you for creating this technology, which we're bringing to the world to help them lower their costs, increase their efficiencies, and potentially bring new investors to their real estate platform. So let's kind of start a little bit with who is Pat, who is Oasis, and what prompted you to do this?
Sure, it's a long journey, but I'll make it short. So my background is investment banking, and I had the opportunity to run a couple of groups at some major firms, Credit Suisse, First Boston, Credit Suisse, which no longer exists. It's part of UBS, and Bear Stearns, which is now part of JP Morgan. But I had a Wall Street career, and I also ran capital markets for First Midwest, which was a subsidiary of First Horizon. And in late 2000s, I had the opportunity to venture off on my own, which I did, and established my own merchant bank, broker-dealer. Really, rather than working on 20 or 30 deals at a time, it gave me the opportunity to really focus and work with teams that I believed in and wanted to build with. And I had the opportunity to become CEOs of some of those portfolio companies. So I had that traditional investment banking background, and I added board experience, I added operational experience, and really became much more well-rounded. Now, most importantly, how did I get into the blockchain space? And that was a long journey. So about 5 years ago, maybe a little longer, I took a look into crypto, and I really wasn't a believer in it because, based on my background, economics major, et cetera, it just didn't make much sense to me. But now today I'm a believer in Bitcoin and ETH, and we could talk about that later. But specifically, when I figured out, and it took me some time, that crypto and blockchain tech were two completely different things. Crypto sits on blockchain, and all the benefits that are coming to crypto is due to that underlying technology. That's when the light bulb went off with me. And I started thinking about capital markets, trade finance, basically anything utilizing a ledger, an Excel spreadsheet, something along those lines. That's what the blockchain really brings at its simplest form, an immutable record in terms of the public blockchains. So I had the opportunity to take partner with what's called a large decentralized finance platform called MakerDAO, and had the opportunity to build Oasis Pro. And Oasis Pro's focus is really real world assets into the blockchain sphere. utilizing blockchain as the technology. What we are, in a nutshell, is a Swiss Army knife for large institutions or for direct to retail. So when I say the Swiss Army knife, think of the largest institutions in the world, and they're all legacy mainframes. We're blockchain, so we're a bridge to that, which only enhances what we're doing with Jim, with your team in regards to the clients that we have, et cetera, which is broadening the distribution network with these large institutions, because we're building with them, and then we're taking opportunities in regards to capital raising opportunities with some really attractive developers, et cetera, in the real estate field, a whole variety. And then widening that distribution using the traditional Wall Street global finance distribution network. So that's what we're doing at the end of the day. We're simplifying it, and it's just tremendously excited. Now, the other aspect I would just add is this isn't an if, but a when. Right now, if you trade securities, you don't have any idea. Most people don't have any idea what happens after they hit the button. That's exactly what's going to happen with blockchain. You're not going to have to worry about cryptography. You're not going to have to worry about keys. But what it brings with the usage of like a stable coin or a central bank digital currency, I know these names sound, to some of the audience, may sound like, what is he talking about? But just think of them as instruments for trade. And at the end of the day, to your point earlier, there's going to be an opportunity, faster settlement, instantaneous settlement, lower cost, immutable record, which means transparency. And at the end of the day, opportunities that most accredited investors, retail, and even institutions don't have any opportunity to see due to size, due to costs, due to a network, the type of network that you may be in. You may not see these opportunities. The blockchain tech that we've built in conjunction with your relationships, we bring that to the mass audiences.
So there was a great article about a week and 10 days ago now in the Wall Street Journal that all the big wealth management firms were going to start focusing not just on the ultra high net worth and super high net worth, but the high net worth and even now the middle market, because they are creating products to grow themselves. And that's the markets that they've chosen. Is that sort of what we're talking about here, Pat?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a number of wealth management distribution channels, and they are pivoting. They've addressed the large accredited investor market for the most part. It's I believe here in the U.S. it's a $39 trillion, $40 trillion market. Retail is next, and then the other component I would just add to what you mentioned is retirement accounts. And the fractionalization opportunity, right, where the buy-in may be $1 million, having the opportunity utilizing blockchain, and when I say blockchain, meaning smart contracts, again, for the audience, you can ignore all these terms because at the end of the day, you'll have an opportunity to invest $1,000 in what typically was $1 million buy-in through fractionalization of security. That's the opportunity with blockchain. And it's not a heavy lift, but it's a different technology. That's the reason it did, Wall Street or global finance didn't switch over to it so quickly. So
there have been a number of initial movers. We'll call them pioneers. We know what happens usually to a pioneer that have had some run-ins. Maybe they weren't FINRA or SEC compliant. Maybe they got started and got distracted or whatever. What differentiates you from some of the early players in the market? I really don't need to go through any names, but what differentiates you from what we'll call, I can't believe I'm going to use this term, the legacy players in the blockchain capital market space?
So when we initially launched a few years ago, I would say we're like the redheaded stepchild, because we kept saying we're regulatory, and we are regulatory and compliance forward. We're right down the middle of the fairway. We actually here in the United States are regulated by FINRA and the SEC. So, and I went through my background earlier. I've always been in a compliant environment, a regulated environment. So it's something I've been accustomed to. And most of my team has been in that environment as well in their previous careers before joining Oasis Pro. So the difference is that even though we weren't there wasn't a lot of excitement about what we were doing a couple of years ago when we really started the tech, getting the tech ready, reaching out to certain members out there, because it wasn't, the Wild West. It wasn't the STO market, what you just referred to in regards to those other players. But I had a sense, again, just by my background, that I never saw the regulators go light on anything in my 25 plus year history with Wall Street and global finance. And I bet that was going to continue. And that's exactly what's happened here in the U.S. There is a regulatory cloud. There seems to be opportunities for maybe a slightly different regulation in regards to what we're doing versus traditional securities, and that's all fine. But at the end of the day, much of the angst that you hear down in Congress, legislators, and the crypto community that we're a part of as well, is that the clear guidance. And our view has always been, well, we think there is clear guidance because we've been doing this for so long in traditional securities, so we just apply that. So that's the primary difference between us and those legacy players, is we're playing within the framework that's been in place for a long period of time.
Now, you mentioned the fact that you're based in the United States, but your technology allows you to reach across the world in lightning speed and basically compress the circumstance so that the securities that you're creating, and that's what they are, they're just regular securities. I call it real estate syndication 3.0. They're available now in lightning fashion across the world. How are you able to do that? And who are you doing that with?
So, well, I can't go into details on names, but we're in discussions in a variety of different geographies: India, Korea, the UAE, Europe, and the UK. And, the opportunity in regards to taking our tech stack. So what we built is a full end-to-end solutions provider. What we have is it's modular. So it's not one solution for everybody. What we've done is we have solutions that are tailored to specific partners. And we have a tokenization platform. We have a cap table management platform. We have KYC, know your customer, anti-money laundering as a vertical. We have an issuance platform for securities, and we have secondary trading platform. And you're absolutely right. The ultimate goal is a worldwide or global trading environment. That's what blockchain offers. I'll give you an example, which isn't securities, but it just shows the power of the blockchain, which is just sending wallet to wallet, what's called and this is where the cryptography keys come in.
Well, so really what it is the cryptography is really the security code that keeps it safe, right?
Right. And if you lose it, you could lose your account. Eventually it's happening now, where you can have a bank account with certain banks, and what they utilize is that cryptographic code, which you'll never know. You just have an account number. So there's safety there. Now with securities, there's even more safety, because if someone steals your securities, there's what's called a transfer agent or cap table management system. Those securities that were stolen, very similar to what happens traditionally, is they're burned or made useless, and new securities are issued. Unlike crypto, these aren't bearer instruments. With securities, your name is tied to that specific security. But back to the global opportunity. So there's this right now, if you want to send funds from the US to Switzerland, that could take up to 2 weeks. Utilizing your bank account, utilizing what's called the SWIFT network, et cetera. And the money's out of your account day one, and it doesn't reach the account in Switzerland up to 2 weeks later, sometimes longer. Today, using this blockchain technology with wallets, et cetera, let's set that aside. But just to describe the speed and the record that we and the low cost that we referred to earlier, you could send $10,000 to someone in Switzerland directly to their account. The fee might be $25, $30, like any wire, and those fees are going way down. But within minutes, those funds will be in that other account. You're not waiting 2 weeks. Now, take that to securities. Zero settlement rather than T+2 or T+10 or 20, which often happens with other structured products, private REITs, a whole host of other different types of security types. What we can do today is take that settlement time down to zero. And that's incredibly exciting at a lower cost.
Well, my team and I, we spent 3 years looking at this space, 2 years working with you and your team to get to the point where we're right at the precipice of bringing our first listing onto your site. We chose to work with you because what I found was that there were all these different technology silos that didn't know how to talk. And when I discovered you and your team, you've brought those silos together and are able to offer them in a concise, well thought out program, because one day I'll call and I'll have a fund manager that wants to start an international fund, and they want to use one certain set of your services. Then I have the next call is with a real estate operating company or developer. They want to use a different suite of your services, but it's all the same quality, and it allows for the ability to scale or broaden what they're doing with you over time. And I do want to just say one thing. I promised I would do this. Last week we teed you up. We discussed this book. So I know what you're giving out for your Christmas gift this year, because it's really sounds really complicated, but it's very simple. It's all things that everybody's done in the past, just a different way. And people go to me, Jim, why is now the time that it's going to be adopted? Some people say, well, it took Bitcoin 8 years, 10 years to get into the mainstream. And I say, no. I say capital was readily available, but now capital is much more clunky in the real estate space. People are willing to look at new ways to do things. And this resonates with just about everybody I've talked to. I'd love you to respond. Then we're going to go to a break, and then we're going to come up with a couple of real life examples.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And, at the end of the day, no one's going to know about this technology. That's when we've hit it. That's when nirvana is, similar to what occurs today. You press a button, you really don't know what happens after that. You just look at your account. And that's what blockchain is going to be. But it's incredibly exciting. We're talking about securities. We're talking about real world assets. But the applicability of this tech isn't solely in this area. Trade finance, letters of credit, et cetera. There is just so much provenance, royalty streams. So you buy a Gucci bag or you buy a Patek watch. How do you know that the provenance is that it's not a fake? Eventually, that's all going to be on the blockchain as well.
100%. It's an incredibly important aspect given the ability for things to be so easily and inexpensively replicated. We're going to take a quick break. Then we're going to come back. I want to talk about some real life examples. And I want to talk about, for instance, I always use the CMBS adoption timeline as a very similar thing. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, a little bit about some real world experiences, probably more in the general that rather than specific, because we can't talk a lot of specifics right now. But I really appreciate you being here. And Pat, can you spend another 10 minutes or so with us?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you so much for your partnership. High five to Jillian for putting this together and for Tucker for keeping on both of us to make it all happen. Mr. Mendoza, time for your magic. I just don't know how he does it. He always ends up showing something that I'm working on at the same time when I'm doing the podcast. So a lot of those buildings I'm doing deals with that same neighborhood. I want to thank the podcast has been on for, I don't know, 730 something episodes. I can't even remember. We've been on for 14 years. This is our 15th year now. 740. Thank you, Mr. Mendoza. The reality is that Warren Henry's been a sponsor with us for 12 years. I want to thank Eric, Warren, Ismet, Larry, Jack, Gio, the whole team there. I want to thank them all. They're all terrific. Remember, they've got, when you're looking to buy or lease a car, you want to get every advantage that you can. That's why you have to check out Warren Henry, Land Rover, Range Rover, Infiniti, Jaguar, and Lincoln up at 151st and Biscayne. They're building out a gorgeous new showroom for Lincoln up there. They've got their award-winning showroom for Land Rover and Range Rover down at South Dade. Up in Gainesville, they sell Audis. Down in the Keys, they just added Chevy. They're doing all the different nameplates down there. They're all great cars. They all come with the Warren Henry Advantage, a long list of services, including a free loaner car. They keep your car looking terrific. Like I scratch my rims, they polish them up. I lose my crazy expensive keys, they replace them. They do that and more. They'll make sure you're getting the best value on your trade-in, the best price on your new car or your leased car. They'll give you 3 days to make sure you love your car. You can turn it back to them. Nobody ever does that because they love those cars. So join me, my beautiful wife, Vivian, my mom, lots and lots of my clients and friends. We're all members of the Warren Henry family. You should be too. Always the best price, always the best service, always Warren Henry. Hi, everybody. I'm Jim Freed. I'm the founder of Sandstone Realty Advisors. We're talking with one of my partners today, Pat and the folks at Oasis Pro. You can see I'm a thought leader. I'm forward thinking, and I've always got the next best thing, and I bring it to my clients. I'm working with lots of debt funds that are helping do the legacy deals, and now we're buying notes and mortgages. So reach out to me, DM me. I can help you capitalize your deal in the traditional or in the futuristic way. They're all going to work. I've been testing them all, and they all are productive. Reach out to me. Let me help you capitalize your deal. Let me help you, address your needs and concerns. My personal brand is that I self-actualize by helping other people achieve their dreams and goals. I do that by solving their problems and bringing them peace of mind. One of the ways we do that is with the blockchain and Oasis. So remember, reach out to me, DM me, email me. Doesn't matter. I'm always here for you. And remember, whenever you call me, it's always all about you.
Welcome back to Freed on Business. Connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Jim Freed or at Freed on Business, and on Instagram at Jim Freed1. Now, back to your host, Jim Freed.
The other day I called somebody on the phone and he picked up the phone. He goes, "Hey, you're calling me, but it's always all about you." And it was hilarious. So people do listen. People do pick up the phone. People do work with us. And we have great access to great channels to finance your real estate. And that's the topic of today's show. We're on with Pat LaVecchia. Here he is. Pat's the CEO of Oasis Pro, a Wall Street veteran who's been working with me and my team to help bring our clients to the blockchain and help them lower costs, increase efficiencies, and potentially reach new investors. Now, Pat, I had teased it a little bit about talking about the adoption of new technologies in the marketplace. And I talked about a little bit about the CMBS market. I remember in 1984, I wrote, "This is my future." Then only certain firms were doing it. The banks shunned it. The life companies shunned it. Now they all originate CMBS. On Wall Street, there's the ETF market that took a time period to be adopted. And now this is really nascent. This has only been going on the blockchain for real estate for 2, 3, 4 years now. And, we're at where I would call it the inflection point. What are you seeing behind the scenes with your negotiations with people that are adopting and I guess betaing this behind the wall? This is taking off.
Yeah, absolutely. So without mentioning names, so, as I mentioned, earlier, I said we were like the redheaded stepchild. And a lot of the large institutions on a global basis were building this themselves, but it was all siloed. And the market wasn't growing because, it takes time from an adoption standpoint. There's regulatory issues, especially. The regulators are very concerned, or were, with the blockchain, with public blockchains. When I say public blockchains, that's like Ethereum. But a lot of them have built their own private blockchains. A couple of examples include JP Morgan with Amex. They have reported $1 billion of transactions a day on their Onyx system.
And that's internal to them, right?
Just internal to them, utilizing a coin, JP Morgan coin, which is a means for transacting internally for them. But that's very exciting. Broadridge, which does a lot of the back office for Wall Street, has been doing what called repos, and I believe they're at well over $1 billion a month. Now, that's not creating new repos, but that's repurposing repos in the traditional flow into the blockchain flow. So that's just publicly available information. Now, what's happening behind the scenes? What are we seeing? Once the crypto, what occurred with FTX, and I'm going to tie it to that because I saw a lot of movement after that. We've been having discussions for about a year with a lot of institutions. Many of them were building it internally. Most of the focus was crypto in regards to what they were building because of all the hype and what was occurring with crypto. Post that, I believe it was a combination of C-level, their C-suites, determining that this investment may have been not the right path to look at what other options are in the market, like Oasis Pro and our variety of different verticals and offerings and products. And secondarily, to really focus on real world products, securities versus cryptos. So we started seeing that toward the tail end of 2022, Q1 of 2023, and then things really ramped up. So what's occurring, I'll share with your listeners here, is all the discussions that we're having, and we're probably in 22, 25 discussions at any one time with global institutions, is that they have dedicated teams internally focused on the blockchain, focused on real world assets, focused on securities, compliance, and regulation. And we're assisting them in that, having conversations, and in some instances, much more than conversations. So it's definitely moving. I would expect 2024 is going to be a really interesting year. This year, if you follow the space, has been called the year of tokenization. 2023. It hasn't happened as quickly as some groups had expected. But again, based on my Wall Street background, it never happens quick. And what I didn't expect it to happen this year, but I believe in 2024 it will. And the benefit of this technology, and I've seen Wall Street do this in the past, is when the use cases work. I'll give you another example. Recently, there was a Bloomberg article about Barclays, JP Morgan, and BlackRock taking a money market fund, tokenizing it. And then there was a transaction, I believe it was on the Onyx system, between Barclays and JP Morgan as a test. Well, and it worked. And the settlement time was almost zero versus intraday or end of day. And now you have a couple of hundred of those, which for large firms is not difficult to do. Then when the decision is made, okay, this is the tech we want to move to in regards to this particular security product, it's going to happen very quickly. Again, for the end user, the user interface, no different. No one will even know it's blockchain, but it's happening.
So what would a real estate operating company or real estate syndicator, why would they be interested in working with Oasis Pro? And the example I always use is anybody's landing page for their company that I land on that says investor login, that's my client.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there are a variety of different avenues as to why work with Oasis Pro. First of all, tokenization is basically, just think of it, it's a security that's digitized. But at the end of the day, it's a security, and with all the same records and protections. Using the platform for issuance is very inexpensive versus going down the typical route of raising capital, telephone calls, et cetera. There's no centralized technology where investors can come in, and it's somewhat burdensome at all, because with smart contracts, all the information can be tied to the smart contracts. What do I mean by that? The token. Hey, I'm interested in this particular real estate opportunity. I'd like all the information on it, the cash flow opportunities, et cetera. There's no PDFs back and forth. None of that is occurring. It's basically all tied to the token, so that all that information is readily available. But the really exciting aspect is the second piece, which is providing a liquidity market. Right now, investors, when they're investing in real estate, have to hold for a period of time. Well, wouldn't it be interesting at a very low cost, because the blockchain versus legacy mainframes is a dramatic difference in cost, that your LPs or investors have the opportunity, if they want to diversify, and this is coming in the future, this isn't readily available today. Think about collateralization. So I have $1 million of a property. I don't want to sell it. I have a token, it's trading. There's an actual market for it in regards to bid asks, et cetera. But I'd like to take a loan out against it. Much more readily available if there's a secondary market for that particular real estate interest. It's very difficult to do that today. And then earlier we talked about fractionalization. So you're a real estate group. You don't want to, you're worried about compliance and regulation. How do I fractionalize? With blockchain, it's very easy. Again, let's say the buy-in is $100,000, right? But there are groups interested at $1,000, $5,000. Well, that could be a compliance nightmare if you have a huge number. But if you have it all tied to one investment contract, and then you can, utilizing the blockchain, divvy that up into 100, right? So you can fractionalize that particular interest. It could trade. That could be very interesting as well, as long as you don't run across certain regulatory issues like 99 investors, et cetera. Again, it depends on the opportunity. It depends on why you're raising the capital. But there's just a tremendous amount of flexibility utilizing tokenization. And then what we haven't talked about here, and I'm just going to tease this. In 3 to 5 years, there's something that's called decentralized finance. It's out there right now, and it's the next wave of financial innovation. We've built our system to take advantage of that when that comes. That's not today, but the opportunity to collateralize your investments, to further fractionalize, to trade on a global basis. And it doesn't all have to be in the United States. Again, going back to a global investor community, that's really exciting. And the blockchain offers that.
That's really tremendous. And I did want to ask you if there was something that you wanted to specifically speak about. So I'm glad that you did bring that up. I always describe it as everybody sits in an office. They've got a filing cabinet. The filing cabinet's the token. They pull it out. They got the 500-page subscription agreement. Basically, that's the smart contract, which reduces it to about 135 decision points. The whole thing gets automated. So all of the things that you talked about are already pre-programmed and pre-set so that it can be done instantaneously and a pivot can be made instantaneously.
Exactly. And it can be upgraded. So if there's an amendment to that particular contract, that's done through the smart contract token. Again, rather than sending out PDFs, confirming that they were received. Look, here's another big advantage of blockchain. Right now, you send out dividend checks or coupon checks, right? If you're a real estate asset management company. Well, you can do all that utilizing the blockchain, just basically a button on your screen, using an account, and then all the other accounts are tied to your account, meaning your LPs. So when you press that button, it goes to those accounts that have already been KYC'd and AML'd. You know who owns those accounts. You don't need to double check addresses. You don't need to send checks. You don't need to confirm why didn't this individual receive it, or et cetera, because you have that immutable record that it was sent and received on the blockchain. Again, these back office savings for real estate issuers can be tremendous.
You know, people don't really understand that in the general public, but all these firms have investor relations departments, accounting departments. Some of the legacy people that tried to do this crowdfunding aspect of this had unique reporting requirements that would drive their sponsors crazy. That goes away with this.
Exactly. And well, initially, over time, because DTCC, which is where all securities, equity securities primarily get, that's where the flow goes through on Wall Street for settlement. And DTCC is global as well. DTCC just bought a blockchain company. DTCC, if they don't move into the blockchain space, they become a dinosaur. So what I always see is Wall Street doesn't allow for their business to disappear. They'll pivot into it. So the back office savings that we're talking about, I think day one will be about 50% of the real opportunity. Because, they'll want a mirroring. The large firms will want a mirroring of traditional and blockchain digital initially, but eventually, over time, it'll be 100% on the blockchain.
100%. I completely agree. You know, our clients have been very pleased with what they've seen. They're looking forward to continuing to work with you and your team on the adoption of the blockchain technology. We're getting close to wrapping, Pat. Is there a bottom line you'd like to leave us with?
Yeah. Well, again, I want to thank you and the opportunity to be partners. We're just really excited about it, about working with you. This is just, we're in 2023. In 2030, everything that we've done to date and that we're doing right now will be just a tiny microcosm of where the opportunity is. And we're at the forefront, which is really exciting, and being pioneers, but we're not the initial pioneers with the arrows in our backs. We've gone through that. So I think the upside's tremendous. Again, the user interface experience will be no different, and currently is no different in regards to our platform from what any investors are accustomed to in the past. And just again, thank you for giving me the opportunity to join.
My pleasure, Pat. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. We look forward, my team and I, to continuing to partner with you and Tucker and Jillian and the rest of your tremendous people up there. And I want to thank you so much for being a partner. Pat, if you stick with us, we'll do a little kibitz in the green room after I do the wrap, if you don't mind. I want to thank everybody for watching today. I'm so proud to announce our partnership with Oasis Pro, and there's lots more things to talk about down the road. Pat will be coming back on a regular basis to speak with us. As I said, I wanted to thank Jillian on his team for helping us put this together, and for Tucker getting the technology set up at their office for us. I want to thank our partners at Warren Henry. They've been with us for 12 years. We've been a partner with Warren Henry personally, our family, for many, many years. I'm going to thank Warren, Larry, Ismet, the whole team over at Warren Henry, Maytel for keeping my car 100%. In Dade, they're at 151st and Biscayne with Land Rover, Range Rover, Infiniti, Jaguar. Their new Lincoln store is being built right now. They've got an award-winning store for Land Rover, Range Rover in South Dade. They've got the new Chevy store that they've added to their lineup in Key West. And, of course, in Gainesville, they sell Audis. They're all great cars, and they all come with that tremendous Warren Henry advantage. So join me, my mom, my beautiful wife, Vivian, and lots of my clients and friends. We're all members of Warren Henry. You should be too. Always the best price, always the best service, always Warren Henry. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Remember, we'll be on next week. We drop a fresh podcast Wednesdays at noon. We'll be speaking with another one of our book fair mavens next week. It'll be wonderful. We've got some other great guests for you lined up too. So remember, I want to thank our sponsors, Bergstrom Center for Real Estate Studies at UF, and Warren Henry. I want to remind everybody that we'll be, like I said, on next Wednesday with a new show at noon. And don't forget, the person that wants to do something finds a way, the other finds an excuse. Now go out there and make it happen. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. Mr. Mendoza, make me look good.